I've always loved running at night. Not the gym, not on treadmills. Outside. Fresh air, empty sidewalks, the hum of quiet suburbs after dinner dishes are done. Something about moving through a sleeping world always calmed me. I'd toss on a hoodie, pop in my earbuds, and just go. That night wasn't anything special. Just another evening jog in the neighborhood where I'd lived the last 3 years. It was one of those planned communities. Curved streets, identical mailboxes, cul-de-sacs like copy-pasted ideas. Safe, predictable, boring in the best way. I'd stuck to my usual route for months, looping past the tennis courts around the elementary school, then back home. But that night, I decided to switch it up. There was a shortcut I'd never used before, a narrow trail that cut behind the newer houses on the east side, through a thin patch of woods that linked 2 streets. I'd seen it during the day when I drove by, a little path that curved behind some backyards and came out near a retention pond. Nothing ominous, just an overgrown easement the city never bothered to pave. I figured, why not? It would shave 5 minutes off my run and give me something different to look at besides Halloween decorations and automatic porch lights. So I turned off the sidewalk and slipped into the trees. It was quieter in there. It made my ears feel full. Just the rhythm of my shoes on dirt and the wind brushing through dry leaves overhead. My breath was steady. The trail was tight but clear, maybe 6 feet wide, flanked by tall brush and sloping fences from the houses above. A few minutes in, I started hearing something behind me. Footsteps. Now, before you jump to conclusions, let me say I've had that happen before. Trails like that can carry sound weird. Sometimes it's your own echo, sometimes it's a squirrel, sometimes another jogger enters behind you and just happens to fall into the same pace. But this was different. The steps matched me exactly. Not slightly off, not a little behind. Exactly. I'd speed up, they'd speed up. I'd slow down, they'd slow down. I even came to a full stop at one point, pretending to stretch, and the steps behind me stopped in perfect sync. I turned around. No one, just the trail behind me, shadowed by tree limbs, patches of moonlight breaking through. I pulled out one earbud and listened. Nothing. I told myself it was an animal, or maybe someone who turned back without me hearing it. No big deal. I kept running, but I couldn't shake the feeling that I wasn't alone anymore. I picked up the pace. Not a sprint, but close. The trail started to feel narrower, the brush a little thicker, the fences a little taller. I could smell damp earth now, wet leaves, something metallic underneath. That's when I saw it. At the base of a tree just off the trail, half covered in loose dirt, was a shoe. A running shoe, white, tipped on its side like it had been dropped mid-step. About 2 feet from it, a pair of wireless earbuds. One of them cracked, the other blinking red. I stopped cold. Next to that, a stained armband, the kind you slide your phone into. There was more. A few feet further down the slope was another pile, this one older. More worn in, a faded sock, a cracked water bottle, another armband, and beneath all that, something sticking out of the dirt. Not enough to be sure, but the edge of a zip-up jacket, black, half buried. I didn't wait to check the rest. I turned around and booked it out of there, full sprint. No looking back. I ran like something was chasing me, even if nothing was. And I swear, I heard the footsteps again, matching mine. Fast, heavy, close. They followed me until the moment I hit the pavement on the other side of the trail. The moment my feet touched the sidewalk, they stopped, gone. I didn't even go home at first. I ran straight to the nearest gas station and sat there for 15 minutes under the flickering lights, trying to calm down. I debated whether to say anything. Maybe I was overreacting. Maybe it was just trash. Lost items. Random coincidence. But something about it, it felt arranged. Intentional. Those items were placed there. The next morning, I called the non-emergency line and reported what I saw. To their credit, the police actually followed up. And what they found? 2 separate piles of personal items partially buried. Nothing new enough to trace easily, but not old enough to be forgotten either. No bodies, no phones, no wallets, but signs that people had been there. 2 of them. When they ran the report, They found that 2 runners had gone missing in our area over the last year. 1 man, 1 woman. Both last seen going for a jog in the early evening. Both lived within a mile of that trail. Neither was ever found. They think someone's been using that wooded path, watching for people who run alone. Someone who knows how to move through the brush without being seen, who can pace you, mimic your steps, stay just far enough back to keep you guessing. And someone who doesn't want to be found. They posted a warning to the community the next day, closed the trail, put up signs, but that doesn't matter much to me anymore, because I don't run at night now. Hell, I barely run at all. And when I walk past that part of the neighborhood, even in daylight, I still think I hear footsteps, pacing me, just out of sight. People always ask how I can wake up that early to run. It's usually followed by some version of, I could never do that, or you must be crazy, or why not just run after school? But I liked it. The quiet, the cold air, that hour before everything starts moving, when the world feels paused and you can actually hear your own footsteps. It was the one part of my day I could control. No tests, no noise, no people. Just the road, my playlist, and my breath. Every morning at 5:40 a.m., I was out the door. I ran the same loop around my neighborhood, past the mailbox clusters, the empty park, the rows of sleeping houses. Same pace, same music, same time every single day. I even had a little ritual. I'd start my warm-up when the streetlight by my driveway flickered off, like it was giving me the all clear. And I wore a smartwatch mostly for pacing, but I'd also gotten used to seeing my progress logged, the numbers ticking up. Felt satisfying, organized, predictable, until one morning it wasn't. That day started like all the others. Chilly, still dark, hoodie zipped, shoes laced, earbuds in. I jogged to the corner where I always began my warm-up. My watch beeped once, syncing with my heart rate. All normal. I started running. The streets were quiet. A couple porch lights on, a cat darting across a lawn, the occasional hum of a refrigerator from an open garage. A few minutes in, right as I was passing the old community center, my watch buzzed again. Not a beep, a buzz. I glanced down, thinking maybe my heart rate spiked or I hit a new mile split. But the screen just said, "Turn around now." No app header, no sender, just that message. At first, I figured maybe it was a glitch, a weird push notification, or maybe something from my running app. Sometimes it sent motivational stuff like, "You've got this," or "Almost there," but this one didn't feel the same. I stopped running, turned down my music, looked around. The street was still empty, but suddenly, it didn't feel quiet in a peaceful way. It felt quiet in a wrong way, like everything was holding its breath. I scanned the houses, every window dark, parked cars sitting like sleeping animals. Nothing moved. I did a slow turn and looked behind me. No one, no headlights, no dog walkers, not even that guy who always left for work early and waved from his porch. Just my breath fogging in the air. I stood there for maybe 30 seconds before I finally started running again. A little faster now. Not because I was scared, I told myself. Just shaken. Weird tech glitch, that's all. I checked my watch again halfway home. The message was gone. No notification. No record of it in my synced messages later. When I got back, I told my mom it was probably just a pop-up from some health app. She nodded, didn't seem concerned, and I let it go, kind of, until a few days later. It was Thursday. School had started, and between classes, I stopped at my locker like always. I spun the combo, grabbed my books, and noticed something inside. Piece of paper, folded, plain white, no name, no markings. I opened it. "You're always 6 minutes late. I prefer the other girl." That was it. No signature, no handwriting I recognized, just printed text in all caps, nothing else. I stood there for a full minute, frozen, rereading the sentence. My stomach dropped. 6 minutes. That morning I'd left at 5:46 instead of 5:40. I'd hit snooze once, just once. I thought it didn't matter, but someone had noticed. Someone had been watching. I showed the note to the school counselor first. She looked alarmed and called the principal. They pulled security footage, but nothing showed anyone messing with my locker. They contacted my parents, then the police. Turns out, I wasn't the only early morning runner in the area. Another girl, about 2 neighborhoods over, had reported someone following her a few weeks earlier. She'd been running around the same time. A car with no plates drove by twice, headlights off. She'd mentioned it to her coach but didn't file a report. Now she was missing. Went for a morning run on a Saturday and never came home. And they think whoever did it was watching more than one of us. Tracking habits, timing, comparing. And when I didn't show up on time, he moved on. I still run, but never alone, and never before sunrise. Now, when I look at my watch, it's not just to check my pace. It's to see if another message shows up. And if it ever does, you better believe I'll listen. Because whoever sent that first one, I don't think they were trying to hurt me. I think they were trying to warn me. If you're drawn to tales like these, consider subscribing to Spectral for more chilling entries waiting to be uncovered. And if you have your own haunting story that you'd like featured in an upcoming compilation, we'd love to hear it. Just email us at spectralentries@gmail.com. Now, let's get back to the video. You ever run so far you forget where you are? That's how it is sometimes when you're training for something serious, marathon, ultra, doesn't matter. Once you're in the thick of it, your brain kind of floats. You're counting steps, checking your breathing, scanning for potholes or loose gravel. Time just melts. You look up and realize you're already 5 miles in, sweating through your shirt and squinting at the sky. That's how I ended up in that part of town in the first place. I'd been working toward the Blue Ridge Marathon, trying to get my weekly mileage up without destroying my knees. I live a few hours from the course, and someone in my running group told me about this quiet rural loop on the edge of town. Good elevation changes, nice rolling hills, and barely any traffic. It was about 7.3 miles end to end, wrapping around some farmland, a forest patch, and a couple old barns that looked like they hadn't seen life since dial-up internet. No sidewalks, just dirt shoulder and faded fence lines, and the occasional rusted tractor watching you from a distance. But I liked it. No stoplights, no cars honking, just birds, wind, and sometimes the low grunt of a cow way off in a field. I ran it every morning for 3 weeks. Didn't see a soul, until I did. It was subtle at first. One morning, about 4 miles in, I tripped on a patch of uneven ground right along a stretch where the fence runs close to the trail. Rolled my ankle a bit, nothing serious. I limped a few steps and turned to glare at whatever root or rock had betrayed me. And that's when I noticed it. A glint, just a tiny flicker of reflected light from the fence post nearest to me. I stepped closer and squinted. There, embedded right into the wood, was a little black circle. Glass, maybe, or plastic, round, shiny. It looked like a tiny lens. The kind you'd see on a wildlife cam, but smaller and way more subtle. It wasn't mounted. It was built in. I figured, okay, maybe someone's monitoring deer movement, or trespassers. This was private property, after all. And who knows, maybe the farmers around here had some high-tech side hustle. I brushed it off, until the next day when I spotted another one. Then another, perfectly spaced. One on every other post, each aimed dead center at the path. Now, I've seen trail cams before. My cousin hunts. They're bulky, strapped to trees, battery-powered. Obvious. These weren't that. These were flush with the wood, barely noticeable unless the sun hit them just right. It didn't sit right with me. The third day, I brought my phone and snapped a few photos, zoomed in. No wires, no brand name, just the glassy little eye staring out from each post like it was waiting for me to slip again. That night, I couldn't shake it. I kept replaying my route in my head. Every turn, every field. how the lenses seemed to follow the curves of the loop like breadcrumbs. Not random, not scattered, deliberate. I called the sheriff's department the next morning. Not 911 or anything dramatic, just the local non-emergency number. Explained what I saw, asked if it was legal to film public paths without signage. The deputy who picked up asked me to send the photos. So I did. Didn't hear anything back for 2 days. Then on Saturday, I got a call. Same deputy. He asked me to meet him at the start of the loop around 10 a.m., said they were following up and might need my help retracing the trail. I showed up, thinking they'd probably tell me it was a conservation project or something innocent. But they didn't. Instead, I saw 3 cruisers, an unmarked SUV, and a group of officers combing the edge of the fence line with flashlights and tape. Not far off the road, yellow markers had been staked near each post. Every single one of those little lenses flagged and bagged. The deputy told me, off the record, that what they found was way more extensive than they'd expected. Apparently, about 40 of those posts had been modified, some with hidden microphones, others with tiny directional cameras, all hardwired underground, which meant someone had spent a lot of time planning this. But that wasn't the worst part. A few hours later, they found the shack. It was tucked just inside the woods near mile 5, off a faint side trail barely wide enough for a person to walk. No electricity, no windows, just a door and a padlock. They pried it open. Inside, dozens of VHS tapes, memory cards, and notebooks stacked in rows. One wall had a map, my loop, marked with times and arrows and initials. Columns listing pace, route variation, days skipped, preferences. I was in there, so were others. Some of the runners I'd seen on local Strava boards. Some I hadn't. They said the logs had dates going back at least a year. The earliest entries were sparse, quick sketches, vague times. But over time, they got more detailed. Names, shoe brands, hair color, estimated age. It was methodical. Whoever was doing it knew how to watch without being seen. They weren't stealing anything. They weren't talking to anyone. They were just tracking. The sheriff wouldn't say much more, just that they'd alerted the proper agencies. No one ever came forward, and the shack burned down mysteriously 2 weeks later before they could process everything. No security cameras, no footprints, just ash and a few half-melted lenses. I don't run that loop anymore. I switched to a gym treadmill. Boring, yeah, but it's got mirrors, locks on the doors, and no fence posts watching me. I still don't know what they wanted. But the thing that keeps me up sometimes, the logs didn't just list us, they ranked us, and my name was number 3. I still wonder who number 1 was, and whether they ever made it home.